All right. So what do you do with the concern that, following the advice of SSD professionals on the claimant side, the representatives, a lot of times we are always drilling home the importance of robust, thorough treatment. There was an old saying, I don't think I've said it in a while, was treat as much as or as frequently as possible without being too frequent. How's that for unclear, right? Um, but the point is, it is true that you need a lot of medical record evidence, not just of your diagnoses and how they came to be legitimate diagnoses, but also of the functional limitations your impairments are putting on you. And that comes from your interactions with your doctors when you complain about pain or limitation or symptoms that occur. So the question had been posed, and it was a really good question. It was someone who had been told this by a personal injury attorney. Now, that's a completely different field. I used to do it, personal injury. Um, and she wanted to know, how do you go get, such robust treatment and get more doctors and specialists and all that stuff? And most of us will agree that a specialist for a very bad condition is probably warranted and doesn't look bad relative to just using a family practitioner who sees you for the general care. Specialists are well regarded by the SSA. So, I think she was looking at it like, well, if I go get 3 specialists for my, if I have an endocrinologist for my uncontrolled diabetes instead of my primary care, who's apparently not getting it under control, that's what I would say. And for my bad back, instead of just getting some painkillers from my primary care, I should go to an orthopedist. There's another doctor. And then instead of just getting Xanax from my primary care, I go to an actual mental health professional and see if therapy is going to help. And maybe there will be a medications management provider if it's deemed that I should have, I need medication. So those are right there, what, 3 or 4 new providers or 3. And I would suggest all that to my client as a general rule, and every case is different. But her concern was that, from the personal injury side, and I think this person may have been in a very bad accident and has a personal injury attorney. And the attorney may have made the note, and this is not untrue, that in that field, if, under certain conditions, it can look like you're doctor shopping if you're hopping around. And what is meant by that, I believe, is if you go to, let's say you have a bad accident, you have orthopedic problems, and you go to one orthopedist, and maybe he's not saying you're as bad as you need him to say for your case. Then you go to another one and another one, and you're trying to get a positive report when maybe they all don't think it's as significant as your case may otherwise desire. That's personal injury. That is totally different from what we're talking about with Social Security disability. So another problem with personal injury might be oftentimes, and this does not happen in Social Security disability, but rarely, and not with me. I think it's a big red flag, actually. When in the personal injury field, and I did the defense side of it more than the plaintiff side. Each side actually pays their own medical expert, their specialist, to, if it goes to trial, to go to trial. But ultimately what they want is the examination, 1 or 2, and the report that describes all the things needed for the personal injury case. It could be liability, it could be a combination of things, prognosis, all that. So if the attorney there is actually paying the expert that's going to testify, and there will be other treating doctors that might not testify, but the testifying doctor is very expensive, and they're paying him, so they're obviously not going to pay him for a crappy report that isn't going to help the client and the client's case. So the judges know that these are, the word they used to use was plaintiffs, and it was a word that rhymed with sure. plaintiffs, sure, or defense, sure. If it was the defense guy who's going to knock everything down and do a report that says the person's fit as a fiddle, it was all theater, all theater. Hold on a second. I'm just going to stop this for a sec to go get a dog. Yeah, 4 dogs. It's a little crazy. Okay. So, yeah, so they have purchased basically their actors, which are medical experts. They're all legitimate doctors. But they're expert that they're going to pay to do the report. And if the case does not settle based on that report, to go and testify as per their report. Because remember, in personal injury, that's in a court that recognizes different rules of hearsay. Okay, different rules of evidence and different rules of hearsay. So they can't just submit the report and say, hey, judge and jury, can I just read this report of Dr. Jones? He's not here, but I'm just going to read his report. No. That's an out of court statement, right? Not allowed. He has to be present to testify to the questions, whatever questions his own attorney wants to ask him, and then the defense attorney wants to cross on. And by and large, that report will be used to make sure he is being consistent with his report. Or say it's a defense attorney and doesn't prefer what's stated in the report, we'll cross-examine and try to pick it apart. And then we'll probably try to have his own paid hack do the same. Not only provide his more negative opinion, but also to explain why his colleague on the other side is incorrect, perhaps. It's theater. It's different than Social Security disability. We don't do theater. We're not allowed to do theater. Okay. It wouldn't work. We are presenting a case to an ALJ who is not a jury that is naive and unsophisticated in what's going on. It is all about the medical evidence and I'm going to use the word credibility, although I know they don't prefer it anymore, the credibility of the claimant and even his providers. Even sometimes they don't find a medical provider to be credible. And they don't say it that way. They'll say it more along the lines of, oh, that's weird. For a person being inconsistent, his testimony is inconsistent with the substantial evidence or the rest of the medical evidence. And for a doctor, they might just say, well, I'm not finding it fully persuasive. That's another words of saying, I don't believe him. Right. But, so, like I said, going back to it, getting, the question of, could I be getting too many doctors? Not when they're all addressing a problem that you actually have. It's when you're getting a new doctor for the same problem because you don't like the one you had because you didn't write a report the way you liked it. It's a totally different world, a totally different venue. Sometimes people ask me, would it be bad if I changed doctors? I really don't like my primary care. He's just always rude to me and I just want to change up. And I'm like, you can definitely change it. These dogs are going crazy. You can absolutely change up. If you for your own mental or physical welfare, need to change up, I don't think it's necessarily going to hurt. Now, if you're doing it every 3 months, it's going to show something. Sometimes I've had cases where people did do that long before they came for the case. They were just constantly cycling through, and there would be statements in the actual records about, hold on a second, one more time. Okay. Yeah, we have too many dogs here. So, going back to it, if for instance, if you are completely always getting rid of a doctor because they're not doing what you want them to do because they're following their own medical judgment, that can look bad. Obviously, the big elephant in the room would be if you're constantly seeking certain painkiller drugs. We've heard about this all before. Drug shopping, blah, blah, blah. Doctor shopping for a doctor that will more freely prescribe. Maybe won't make you, P-test, that kind of thing. If they see that, that's going to be a sign of some addiction problem, maybe something that's not otherwise revealed in the records. It can also be a sign of a certain mental condition. A lot of my mental health cases, not a lot, I shouldn't say that. When it's happened, it's been in my mental health cases. It's not in a lot of them where a person, sometimes there's a condition where a person just always thinks that they know more than their doctor. And they try to push them into giving them what they want, whether it's certain treatment, whether it's certain behaviors. It's something different than just not liking a doctor because he's rude, because let's face it, there's a lot of rude doctors, just like there's a lot of rude lawyers. So that's different. I'm talking about more of a pattern. If there's a pattern, if it's a pattern every 5 years, that's not a pattern, in my opinion. But if it was after a few visits or less than 6 months or even a year, maybe that might be too fast. But only if it's repeated. If you do it, you meet a doctor in the first week. I've done that. I had a doctor once and I never went back to her. I didn't think she was a horrible person or anything. I just was like, I don't know. It was weird. But so that happens. Actually, I probably have done it more than once, actually. But I don't go to the doctor that much. So it's kind of different. I don't have currently any significant impairments. So I would not worry ever about, if I get too much treatment, it's going to look like I'm doctor shopping. No, not with Social Security disability. I could see that could be an issue with a personal injury case. It's very different. It's a very different venue. As I said, it's kind of a bit of a theater, whole different ball game. We're a little more nuts and bolts here in this field, and the ALJ is not going to be interested in theater. Okay, so you do what you have to do, and as I say, every impairment needs attention, because every impairment can make an impact in a positive way on your case. None of them are going to really make an impact in a negative way in your case. If anything, it's going to be in a positive way. It'll be a little bit more of those crumbs we talk about of building that award cake to get to the actual award, crumb by crumb. All right. Enough of that. I hope I answered her question. Bye, guys.